What I've done is write out a sort of condensed biography of all of them. You know, the usual stuff, date of birth, where they were born, where they died. So she's talking about the research that they have done on the authors that are going to be part of the quiz. And she's handing over the papers. But very soon she just gives up. And he apologizes, but basically she's challenging him. So, should I carry on wasting my breath, or do you want to say something? And at this point, Tommy agrees that they must talk, and she says, you know, fine, good. Now, he's finding it very difficult to tell her that he's decided that he must not go on with the quiz. And this is interesting because he tries to soften the blow, and she changes a key word. Now, when the adjective changes here to describe the time they've had together, this suggests fun, enjoyable, pleasurable. This suggests so much more. She knows that she's changed. She's learnt a lot about herself and about the country. So please look at those two adjectives. They are important. And she does reflect, and she talks about changing. Now, if her father thinks she's changing, then she probably is. Her father's noticing. And what above all is changing in her is her relationship with black people. She's changed so much that everything that is familiar to her now seems wrong. And she talks about the fact that she's chatting with Samuel, and she says now she feels patronizing and superior. She's very aware that she's working in this master-servant relationship. Patronizing when you talk down to people as if they were children and you were the adult. She's very uncomfortable with this relationship now. And then she asks about Mr. M, and Tommy says, he's got no choice. I've decided, and that's the end of it. So I think we need to look at this. The idea of choice and the tone here, that's the end of it. Look at how firm he is. And this parallels the conversation that we heard earlier in the play between Isabel and Mr. M, when Mr. M basically said, Tommy's got no choice, I decide that's the end of it. So we realize that there is what we call role reversal. If you reverse something, you turn it around, you turn it the other way. And the roles have been reversed in that Mr. M was the authority figure, the parent figure, the person who made decisions. Now what we've got is Tommy saying, no, I make my own decisions. I make my own choices. So this is a very, very important sentence. He is no longer going to fulfill Mr. M's dreams and goals for him. He's going to have his own dreams and goals, and he's going to pursue them. So such an important sentence. But let's have a look at Isabel. Is she understanding any better what's going on? So do you think we can at least talk about it? Help me to understand, because to be absolutely honest with you, Tommy, I don't think I do. You're not the only one with the problem. What Mr. M had to say about the team and the whole idea made a hell of a lot of sense to me. You owe it to me, Tommy. A lot more than just my spare time is involved. So what she's basically saying is, okay, I get it that you're an activist now. How does that affect our relationship? I'm not understanding fully. His answer, talk about what? Don't you know what's going on? And here is he genuinely surprised? Is he saying, hang on a second, you must know what's going on? And she says, don't be stupid, Tommy. Of course I do. You'd have to be pretty dumb not to know that the dreaded unrest has finally reached us as well. She's quoting white people, dreaded, feared, terrified of. And what we've got is, this is how whites see the uprisings in the township. And Tammy says, we don't call it that. Here's the opposite side. Isiqalo. And she says, oh, all right. I don't care what it's called. All I'm asking you, explain to me how the two of us learning some poetry, cramming in potted biographies, interferes with all of that. And she says, man, Tammy, this great beginning of yours sounds like, I don't know, other people deciding who can and who can't be your friends, what you must do and what you can't do. Is this the freedom you've been talking to me about, that you were going to fight for? So what the scene is doing is exploring the idea of freedom and saying that freedom doesn't come like in a vacuum. It comes in a particular historical and political context. And what freedom means in one person's understanding might not be in another, and it's also about the historical context around what's going on. And then Mr. M arrives, and he says, Isabel was asking you how you managed to reconcile your desire for freedom with what the comrades are doing. So what we seem to have lined up here is Isabel and Mr. M and Tammy, and the issue is freedom. And Isabel is saying, isn't freedom making your own decisions? You've just said you're making your own decisions. Isn't that about things like who can be your friends, how you spend your time? And Mr. M seems to be supporting her. Look at that. Reconcile your desire for freedom, bring together your desire for freedom and what the comrades are doing, which Mr. M is implying here isn't freedom. So do you act according to your own beliefs, your own desires, your own goals, your own needs, or are you dictated to by somebody else? And that's what this whole scene is exploring. What is freedom? What is individual freedom? And Tammy tries to give this perspective. The comrades are imposing a discipline which our struggle needs at this point. There's no comparison between that and the total denial of our freedom by the white government. They've been forcing on us an inferior education in order to keep us permanently suppressed. What our struggle is successful, there'll be no more need for the discipline that the comrades are demanding. So Tammy says, hang on. When you talk about a lack of freedom, the apartheid system, that's a lack of freedom. Where you have no choice about your education, where you live, where you work, what your goals and dreams are, whether you want to become a doctor or a lawyer, all of that is dictated to you and repressed by a white authoritarian racist government. That is lack of freedom. Tammy's saying what the comrades are asking for is a certain amount of discipline while we are still in the struggle. The apartheid government, they see that lack of freedom as permanent. The comrades are asking for understanding for a short period of time. So Tammy giving that historical context here.